Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Jackson Miller, a demanding billionaire known for his ruthless temper, had just endured a hellish week. Between stressful meetings and decisions that could cost millions, he dreamed of only one thing: entertainment, an escape from the pressure. When his assistant suggested hiring a new personal assistant, he agreed, thinking that an elegant female presence would add a little distraction to his monotonous days. For fun, he murmured with a wry smile. That's how Sophia Carter arrived, a young woman with a sharp gaze and a mysterious past, seemingly simple and reserved. Jackson, confident in his control over every situation, had no idea that this encounter would turn his life upside down. From the very first day, Sophia showed a remarkable attention to detail, anticipating his needs before he even voiced them. Then came that fateful night. While Jackson was working late in his penthouse, an unforeseen incident, a short circuit followed by an imminent fire, occurred. Panicked, he tried to escape, but the smoke was already suffocating him. That's when Sophia, with incredible calm and courage, intervened, guiding Jackson out of danger and saving his life. At that precise moment, Jackson understood that what he had taken for a simple distraction was in reality a providential encounter. The woman he had hired, for fun, had just shown him that she was much more than a simple employee. She was his guardian angel, the one who had just changed the course of his destiny. Jackson Miller had never been one to be surprised. Every detail of his life, every person in his service, every appointment was carefully orchestrated. Yet, that morning, something unexpected had just happened. His assistant, Mark, had told him about a young woman who had applied for a personal assistant position. She's experienced, she's efficient, and, she has a personality you might like, he added with a mischievous smile. Jackson raised an eyebrow, intrigued but skeptical. When Sophia Carter walked through the office door, she was neither intimidating nor pretentious. Her demeanor was simple yet refined, her gaze direct yet strangely gentle. She extended her hand in greeting. Jackson looked at her for a moment, almost surprised by the quiet confidence she exuded. "I'm Sophia Carter, for the interview," she said calmly. Jackson smiled for the first time in days. "All right, Sophia. Let's get some coffee and talk a little about what I want in a personal assistant." During the interview, Sophia answered each question precisely, anticipating Jackson's needs before he even articulated them. She didn't just promise effectiveness, she demonstrated it. Jackson, used to having his ego stroked, was struck by her authenticity and intelligence. Late that morning, he made an impulsive decision. "You start tomorrow." He allowed himself a wry smile. "And, between us, Sophia, I'm warning you, this job will be demanding, but I hope you can make my days a little more interesting." Sophia nodded, showing no sign of concern. Jackson was still unaware that by accepting this position, she would not only be managing his schedule, she would soon become the one who would save his life, literally. What he thought would be a simple distraction to break the monotony of his days would very quickly turn into a series of unexpected and dramatic events. Sophia's first day at Jackson's began as planned. She noted every detail, organized her schedule, and anticipated Jackson's needs before he even expressed them. But behind this routine, something unexpected was brewing. Jackson, engrossed in his financial files, didn't immediately notice the unusual signs in his penthouse. Loose cables, a strange smell coming from the basement, fleeting electrical flickers, nothing that, taken separately, would have alerted anyone, but Sophia sensed that something was wrong. As she placed the coffee on Jackson's desk, she quickly glanced at the electrical wiring. Her past experience in unexpected situations, which she carefully kept secret, made her frown. "Mr. Miller, I believe there's a problem with the main circuit," she said calmly. Jackson raised an eyebrow, amused. "A problem? Sophia, this building is brand new, and I doubt a few loose cables could pose any danger to me." But Sophia remained unfazed. "I prefer prevention to cure, sir. It's better to have someone check before things get serious." Jackson, a little annoyed but curious, decided not to press the issue. Yet, a small part of him began to wonder why Sophia always seemed to notice details he himself missed. He shook his head. After all, he had hired her for fun, and so far, she had only fulfilled that role. Later that day, while he was working late in his office, a faint crackling sound was heard. Sophia, who was passing by to drop off some files, immediately noticed the smell of smoke. Her heart sank. She knew it wasn't just a simple incident. She quickly approached Jackson. "Mr. Miller, we have to get out now." Jackson looked at her incredulously. "What? An alarm?" "It's nothing, I have to finish this report." Sophia didn't waste a second. "Trust me, sir. Follow me." What he didn't yet know was that this night would change his life forever. What he thought was a simple game of seduction, a distraction, would reveal Sophia's true worth, courage, intelligence, and an ability to act under pressure that no billionaire could have anticipated. Night was falling on Jackson Miller's penthouse when Sophia first sensed the imminent danger. The electrical crackling she had noticed earlier was intensifying, and a thin wisp of smoke was beginning to rise from the main circuit. She knew there were only minutes left before the situation became critical. Jackson, engrossed in his files, noticed nothing. "Sophia, I assure you, I can handle this," he began, but his voice caught as a spark erupted behind him, briefly illuminating the room with an orange glow. Smoke began to fill the office. "No. No time to argue," Sophia exclaimed, grabbing Jackson's arm. She pulled him toward the exit with a quiet but determined strength. Jackson, surprised and slightly panicked, let himself be led despite himself. As the fire intensified in the penthouse, Sophia found the safest route to the fire escape. Every second counted. She remained calm, mentally rehearsing the safety protocols she had learned in past emergencies, protocols she had never shared with anyone. "Stay behind me," she shouted, and Jackson realized he had never been so vulnerable. He was used to controlling everything in his life, but now he was completely dependent on her. Outside, the cool night air contrasted sharply with the stifling heat and smoke of the penthouse. Jackson caught his breath and, for the first time, looked at Sophia with a mixture of gratitude and astonishment. You saved my life." Sophia gave a small smile, but her expression remained serious. "You could have ignored me when I warned you. That's why I had to act." Jackson then felt an emotion he had never known, humility mixed with admiration. What he had taken for a simple employee, for fun, had just become the guardian angel he didn't know he needed. That night, an invisible but powerful connection was created between them. Jackson understood that he had just met someone who was not only capable of managing his schedule or responding to his whims, but who could change the course of his entire life. And Sophia, in silence, knew that this was only the beginning of a relationship full of challenges, tensions and hidden truths, a relationship that would transform both their lives forever. The days following the fire were strangely silent for Jackson. His penthouse had been repaired, the circuits replaced, and yet something had changed in his daily life. He couldn't stop thinking about Sophia. Every morning, when she walked into the office, he felt a strange mixture of admiration and concern. She had never sought the limelight, and yet, after the incident, she had become indispensable. Jackson realized that he had thought he was hiring a simple assistant for his amusement, but that in reality, she had become his invisible pillar. Sophia, for her part, continued her work with the same rigor and discretion. She anticipated his appointments, prepared his documents, and even when he seemed annoyed or impatient, she knew exactly what to do to ease the tension. She had understood something that Jackson, despite his wealth and intelligence, had never truly grasped: absolute control was merely an illusion. One afternoon, as he watched her organize a complex schedule for the following week, Jackson felt a pang of curiosity, an intrigue, he had never felt before. "Sophia," he began hesitantly, "how do you always know exactly what I need?" Sophia looked up, calm and composed. "I'm not guessing, sir. I'm observing. I'm paying attention to details that others are overlooking." Jackson smiled slightly, impressed despite himself. But behind that smile, a part of him was beginning to worry. If she could anticipate all this, what other abilities did she still possess? This thought troubled him, but it also awakened something new: respect, curiosity, and, without him admitting it, genuine admiration. He understood that Sophia wasn't simply useful, she had become indispensable. And this strange feeling, a mixture of dependence and wonder, would soon take up a much larger place in his life. Jackson, for the first time in a long time, felt vulnerable. He knew he could no longer ignore Sophia's quiet strength and unassuming courage. The young woman he had hired for fun was becoming much more than that, an unavoidable presence, capable of changing his world forever. A few weeks after the fire, Jackson thought the threat was over. His penthouse was secure, the electrical systems reinforced, and Sophia continued to manage her days with formidable efficiency. But fate seemed to have other plans. One evening, while Jackson was working late on a confidential project, he received an anonymous call. A cold, threatening voice whispered, "You think you're safe, Miller, but this is just the beginning." Before he could reply, the line went dead. Jackson's heart raced. A fear he'd never truly known resurfaced. He turned to Sophia, who had just placed her files on the desk. She immediately noticed the tension. "Sir, what is happening?" she asked calmly, but with a vigilance that betrayed her past experience. Jackson told her about the call. Sophia frowned, then stood to check the penthouse security systems. She knew not to underestimate a threat, even a vague one. Her gaze became determined, she would protect Jackson, no matter what. Shortly after, a faint noise from the floor below alerted Sophia. She grabbed Jackson by the arm. "Follow me, sir. It's time to leave this place." As she quickly descended the stairs, she took control of the situation with natural authority. Jackson, despite his status and wealth, realized that he was entirely dependent on his instinct and courage. They discovered that an intruder had tried to break into the penthouse, but thanks to Sophia's attention to detail, the cameras, the motion detectors, and her quick thinking, the danger was neutralized before it became real. Jackson, breathless, looked at Sophia with a mixture of admiration and respect. You saved me again." Sophia offered a faint smile, but her eyes shone with unwavering determination. "I cannot leave you alone, sir. You are in danger, and I do not intend to wait for something serious to happen before I act." That night, Jackson understood a truth that would change his life: Sophia was not only essential to his comfort or his daily routine. She had become his protector, his guardian angel, and the person he could now completely rely on. The bond between them was strengthening, a mixture of gratitude, tension, and a silent respect that promised to transform their relationship beyond anything they had imagined. After the intruder incident, Jackson and Sophia's lives took on a strange rhythm, a mix of daily work and constant vigilance. Jackson could no longer ignore Sophia's importance in his life. She wasn't just efficient, she had become indispensable, almost irreplaceable. Yet, an invisible tension was beginning to grow between them. Jackson, a man accustomed to control and domination, felt strangely vulnerable in Sophia's presence. He didn't like it, but he couldn't help being fascinated by her quiet strength, her composure in the most perilous situations. Sophia, for her part, also felt this special connection. She respected Jackson, admired his intelligence and charisma, but she also knew that his safety and well-being depended on her. This responsibility created a unique closeness, a silent understanding where every gesture, every glance, carried particular weight. One afternoon, while they were working late on a strategic file, Jackson broke the silence. "Sophia. I don't know how I managed without you until now." Sophia looked up, intrigued but remaining professional. "I'm here to assist you, sir. But I must admit that I am worried about you." Those simple yet sincere words made Jackson's heart beat faster. He realized he had never felt such a connection with anyone before. This mixture of dependence, gratitude, and fascination began to blur his certainties. This unspoken tension became even more palpable when they had to attend an important meeting together. Sophia anticipated his every need, shielding Jackson from prying eyes and professional pitfalls. Jackson, for his part, was aware of the impact she had on him, and he had to fight his own desire to get too close, too fast. At the end of the day, as they returned to the penthouse, a heavy silence, thick with unspoken words, settled between them. Each knew that something powerful was being born, something that went beyond the purely professional sphere. And deep down, Jackson understood that he could never go back. The woman he had hired, for fun, had changed his life, and this tension, this invisible bond, would soon push him to confront feelings he had never dared to experience. A few days later, Jackson and Sophia faced a new challenge. An important business meeting, where Jackson's reputation was at stake, took an unexpected turn. A competitor, known for his aggressive tactics and provocations, had infiltrated the room with compromising documents, hoping to destabilize Jackson. Sophia, always attentive to detail, immediately noticed the anomalies in the presentation and the lingering stares of some participants. Without a word, she discreetly alerted Jackson and took control of the situation. She intercepted the documents, deflected the trick questions, and managed to protect Jackson's reputation without any of the other participants noticing. Jackson, sitting next to her, felt a renewed admiration. He understood that Sophia was not only capable of protecting him physically, as during the fire or the intruder, but that she could also defend him in complex situations where his career, his fortune, and his image were at stake. After the meeting, Jackson led her to his office, his face etched with the intensity of the event. "Sophia, you were incredible once again. I never could have handled this without you." Sophia smiled, but her expression remained serious. "I told you I would be here, sir. This isn't just my job, it's my responsibility." Jackson felt his heart clench. This notion of responsibility and silent devotion touched him deeply. Every action of Sophia's seemed to measure her courage and loyalty on a scale he had never known. This ordeal left a lasting impact. Jackson understood that their bond could not be reduced to a simple employer-assistant relationship. Sophia had proven, once again, that she was capable of protecting and supporting him in all aspects of his life. And for the first time, he wondered, was this woman he had hired for pleasure becoming much more than that? Was she becoming the person he didn't know he had always been looking for? A few weeks after the meeting, Jackson sensed for the first time a threat that went beyond the professional sphere. A former associate, jealous of his success and wealth, had begun to harass him discreetly, anonymous messages, minor intrusions into his systems, attempts at intimidation. But this time, the threat wasn't just to his business, it targeted his personal safety. Sophia, as always, immediately sensed the danger. She checked the cameras, analyzed access points to the penthouse, and implemented preventative measures. Jackson, usually so adept at controlling everything, realized he had to rely on her completely. One night, while he was working late, a strange noise was heard near his door. Before he could react, Sophia appeared, calm and precise. "Sir, stay behind me," she said, taking the initiative. The intruder, a masked man, tried to enter the office, but Sophia used a combination of cunning and strategy to neutralize the threat until the authorities arrived. Jackson, breathless and still in shock, looked at her with a mixture of gratitude, respect, and awe. "Sophia, you never just do your job. You save my life every time," he murmured, unable to hide his emotion. She nodded, without smiling, but with an intensity in her gaze that made Jackson understand she was taking her responsibility very seriously. "I can't leave you alone. You mean too much to me, sir." That night, a silent but unbreakable bond formed between them. Jackson understood that Sophia was no longer simply his assistant, nor even his protector, she had become his partner in the truest sense of the word. She knew his strengths, his weaknesses, and his vulnerabilities, and she was ready to do anything to protect him. For Jackson, there was no going back. The woman he had hired, for fun, now played a vital role in his life. And he understood, with unsettling clarity, that his existence would never be the same without her. A few days after the intruder incident, Jackson felt he knew Sophia better than anyone. But he was about to discover that even she had secrets, and some of them could shatter their bond. While they were working late in the office, Jackson noticed a photo that had fallen from a file Sophia had prepared. In the photo, a young woman who looked remarkably like Sophia was standing alongside police officers and security guards during a rescue operation. Intrigued, he asked her, "Sophia, is that you in this photo?" Sophia paled slightly, then took a deep breath. "Yes, that was a few years ago. Before coming here, I worked in protection and security missions for people in danger. I learned to anticipate risks, to act under pressure. That's why I was able to protect you from the beginning." Jackson felt his world crumble. Everything he thought he knew about her, a simple, discreet, and reserved assistant, had just changed. This woman he had hired, for fun, had a courageous and dangerous past, and all her behavior over the past few weeks finally made sense. You risked your life for me before I even understood what was happening," Jackson murmured, a mixture of admiration and respect in his voice. Sophia nodded. "I can't leave you alone, sir. Even if you don't know it yet, you matter to me." Jackson felt his heart clench. Every act, every gesture, every precaution she had taken to save his life suddenly became clear. She wasn't just brave, she was exceptional, and he began to realize that he could no longer imagine his life without her. This revelation changed everything. Jackson understood that their bond was no longer simply professional, nor even based solely on danger and gratitude. There was now a deeper dimension, made of absolute trust and emotions he had never dared to explore before. And Sophia, in her deliberate silence, knew that she had just taken a crucial step. Now, Jackson saw her not only as his protector, but also as someone whose presence had become essential to his life and balance. A few weeks after Sophia's past was revealed, Jackson understood that his life had changed forever. She was no longer just his assistant or his protector, she had become his anchor, the one who gave meaning to his hectic and lonely existence. One night, while they were staying late at the office to finalize a crucial project, an unexpected incident occurred. A gas leak in the penthouse triggered a silent alarm. Jackson, already exhausted, felt a pang of panic. But Sophia, calm and determined, immediately regained control. "Sir, this way," she shouted, guiding him toward the emergency exit. Time seemed to slow down, every second weighed heavily, but Sophia remained focused. Thanks to her composure and experience, she managed to get them both to safety before the explosion became inevitable. Outside, in the cool night air, Jackson looked at her intently. "Sophia. I don't know how to thank you. You saved my life again." She smiled gently, but her gaze betrayed the emotion she didn't want to express. "You don't need to thank me, sir. I will always be there for you." At that moment, Jackson realized he could no longer ignore his feelings. Everything he had taken for a mere attraction or amusement had transformed into something far deeper. The woman he had hired, for fun, had become essential, not only to his safety, but to his heart and soul. He stepped forward slowly, taking her hand in his. "Sophia. I don't want to imagine my life without you anymore." She looked at him, a mixture of surprise and tenderness in her eyes. "Me neither, sir." That night, Jackson understood that chance had brought Sophia into his life for a reason far greater than he could have imagined. She wasn't just his assistant, nor his guardian angel, she had become the person who completed his world, the one without whom nothing would ever be the same again. And in the silence of the night, as the city lights twinkled around them, Jackson and Sophia discovered that this unique bond, forged by danger, trust, and courage, was now indestructible.